Let us go to the next important topic, budget. What is budget? See the meaning. The word budget is originated from the French word budget, which refers to a small leather bag. In terms of economics, we can say it is an annual financial statement which shows the estimated income and expenditure of the government for the forthcoming financial year. See the definition for budget as given by the two economists René Stone and Bastable. See the definition of René Stone. What he says: it is a document containing a preliminary approval plan of public revenue and expenditure. According to Bastable, budget means the budget has come to mean the financial arrangements of a given period with the usual implication that they have been submitted to the legislature for approval. Components of budget. The two components of budget are budget receipts and budget expenditure. The budget receipts are divided into two: revenue receipts and capital receipts. Revenue receipts are further divided into two: tax receipts and non-tax receipts. Capital receipts are divided into three: recovery of loans, borrowing and other liabilities, and disinvestment. See the budget expenditure. It is divided into two: revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure is further divided into plan expenditure and non-plan expenditure. Capital expenditure is further divided into plan expenditure and non-plan expenditure. We will be seeing about all these concepts in detail in the oncoming slides. Let us see the different types of budget. The first type is revenue budget. It consists of revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. The revenue receipts can be categorized into tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Revenue expenditure also is categorized into planned revenue expenditure and non-planned revenue expenditure. Second type is capital budget. It consists of capital receipts and capital expenditure. Main sources of capital receipts are loans, advances, etc. Capital expenditure can be categorized into planned capital expenditure and non-planned capital expenditure. And next type is supplementary budget. So see what type of budget it is. During the time of war, emergencies and natural calamities like tsunami, flood, etc. take place, the expenditure allotted in the budget are not always enough. So under these circumstances, a supplementary budget can be presented by the government. Supplementary and additional budget, one more new budget can be submitted. Next type, vote on budget. Usually budget are presented in the middle of the year. The reason may be political in nature. The existing government may or may not continue for the next year. On account of the fact, so keeping this in mind, that elections are due, then the government places a budget called as a lame duck budget. This is called vote on budget. The government gets permission from the parliament to incur expenditure on necessary items from both the houses. This type of budget is sanctioned for not more than 2 months. I hope you understood what is this vote on budget. If the government is presenting a budget and if their period is going to end within 1 or 2 months, then the type of budget that they are presented is called as a lame duck budget. For this budget, they have to get the permission from both the houses of the parliament, and the permission will be sanctioned only for a month of 2. Next, zero based budget. The Indian government presented this in the year 1987 and 88. It was initiated in the Department of Science and Technology in 1983. It is a method of budgeting in which all expenses must be justified for each new period that new expenditure has been implemented. Every function is analyzed for its needs and cost. Next, performance budget. As the name suggests, it is a performance budget. When the outcome of any activity is taken as the base of any budget, such budget is known as a performance budget outcome. It was made first by USA. The government should tell what is done, how much done for the betterment of the people. So this type of budget is also known as a outcome budget. So far we have seen the different types of budget which was in existence in India. Next, balanced versus unbalanced budget. We can say a budget is either balanced or unbalanced. See what it is. When can you say the budget is a balanced budget? It is a situation in which estimated revenue of the government during the year is equal to its anticipated expenditure. Very simple. If the revenue and expenditure is equal, then you can say that particular budget is a balanced budget. See what is unbalanced budget. The budget in which revenue and expenditure are not equal to each other, it is known as unbalanced budget. If both revenue and expenditure are not equal, sometimes it may be high, sometimes it may be low, then such type of budget is known as a unbalanced budget. This unbalanced budget can be either surplus or deficit. What is surplus balanced budget, unbalanced budget? Here the estimated revenue of the year are greater than the anticipated expenditure. The revenue is more than the expenditure, then we can say it is a surplus budget. And see the deficit. The estimated government expenditure is more than the expected revenue. In deficit budget, expenditure will be more than the revenue. Did you understand, student? Yes. Types of budget. They are categorized as deficit budget, balanced budget and surplus budget. Just now we have seen that balanced budget means expense should be equal to revenue. If it is not equal, then it is an unbalanced budget. It may be either deficit or it may be a surplus. When it will be a surplus? When expense is less than the revenue. And when it will be deficit? When the expense is more than the revenue. This is what the chart explains. Budgetary procedure. Let us see how this budget is going to be presented in the parliament. Certain procedures are there. So it refers to the system through which the budget is prepared, enacted and executed. It is 3 in number. 3 procedures are there. First, preparation of the budget. It's very important. Next, presentation of the budget. And third, execution of the budget. Let us see one by one in a very detailed manner. See the picture. Process in the preparation of the budget. They have given the short term. Budget estimates are prepared by the Ministry of Finance based on the estimated income and expenditure of various ministries and departments sent to the Ministry of Finance, prepares budget presented by the Finance Minister to the Cabinet for approval. Budget is ready for presentation to the Parliament. We'll be learning all about these procedures in detail. See the picture on the right hand side. Can you guess who she is? Yes, right. She is Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister, presenting the annual budget in the Parliament for the financial year 2020-21. See the down picture. She is standing along with all its colleagues of Ministry of Finance before presenting the budget in the Parliament. Let us see the first procedure, preparation of the budget. The Ministry of Finance prepares the budget every year in central level. The Finance Department is responsible for annual state budget. While preparing, the following points are taken into account. What are the points? Macroeconomic targets to be achieved within a plan period. The basic strategy of the budget. Financial requirement of different projects. Estimates of revenue expenditure. Estimates of capital expenditure. Estimates of revenue receipts. Estimates of capital receipts. Estimates of gap between revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. Estimates of fiscal and deficit, primary deficit and revenue deficit. So all these points should be keep in mind before planning the budget. Let us go to the second procedure. It is the presentation of the budget. Yes, how the prepared budget is presented in the Parliament and State Legislative. Listen. The Honorable Minister of Finance places the Union budget before Parliament. The Finance Minister of respective state governments places the state budget before the state legislative. According to our constitution, all the money bills are first placed before the Lok Sabha at the center and before Vidhan Sabha at the state level. The demands of various tax proposals are included in the budget. After the finance bill is passed, an appropriation bill is presented to give legal effect to the voted demands and to authorize the expenditure as per the budget. Yes, what do you mean by appropriation bill? It is a bill which contains provisions of how much and for what purpose are you going to withdraw the money. So in this way, budget are enacted in India. Third procedure, execution of the budget. So the budget is prepared, presented, and the last step is it has to be executed. So the budget is mainly executed by different departments of the government. Proper execution of the budget is essential, is a must for the efficient utilization of the allocated funds. Parliamentary control over the budget. In India, all the government accounts are maintained in three parts: consolidated fund, contingency fund, public accounts. What is consolidated fund? It includes revenue which are received by the government through taxes and expenses incurred in the form of borrowings and loans. That is called as a consolidated fund. Next is contingency fund. It is a reserve of money set apart to cover possible unforeseen future expenses. And third, public accounts. It is a key accountability and transparency document in the province's financial cycle. Then there are two committees in the Parliament to have a control over this budget, the Public Accounts Committee and the Estimates Committee. These committee keep a constant vigil. Repeatedly they will be having a vigil on the expenditure so that no ministry exceeds the amount sanctioned to it. Next topic, budgetary deficit. It is a situation where budget receipts are less than the budget expenditure. This situation is also known as government deficit. It is divided into 4 types: revenue deficit, budget deficit, fiscal deficit and primary deficit. See the first one. What do you mean by revenue deficit? It refers to the excess of the government revenue expenditure over the revenue receipts. It does not consider capital receipts under capital expenditure. That is, revenue deficit is equal to total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipt. Second, budget deficit. It is the difference between total receipt and total expenditure. That is, budget deficit is equal to total expenditure minus total revenue. Next is the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit FD is equal to budget deficit plus government's market borrowings and liabilities. And last one, primary deficit. Primary deficit is equal to fiscal deficit minus interest payment. That is, primary deficit PD is equal to fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Federal finance. Federal finance refers to the system of assigning the source of revenue, that is, dividing the source of revenue to the center as well as state government. What for? For the efficient discharge of their respective functions. That is, the total revenue collected will be shared between the central government and state government to carry out all their functions for the development of the economy. Next, clear-cut division is made regarding the allocation of resources of revenue between center and the state authorities. They have a clear-cut division, that is, certain departments are under the control of the center, certain departments are under the control of state, certain departments are under the control of both the center and the state. Let us see that there are 3 lists enumerated in the 7th schedule of Constitution. That is, Union list. It consists of 100 subjects of national importance such as defense, railways, post and telegraph, etc. So these departments will be only in the hands of the center. Next, state list. It consists of 61 subjects of local interest such as public health, police, etc. Each and every state will have these departments under their own control. Next is the concurrent list. It has 52 subjects important to both the union and the state such as electricity, trade union, economic and social planning. So these departments will be both in the hands of the center as well as the state. Central state financial relationship. First heading, union sources. Let us see what are all the departments in the hands of center. 20 different departments have been mentioned. Let us see that. Corporation tax, currency, coinage and legal tender, foreign exchange. Duties of customs including export duties. Duties of excise on tobacco and certain goods manufactured or produced in India. Estate duty in respect of property other than agricultural land. fees in respect of any of the matters in the union list but not including any fees taken in any court. Next, foreign loans. Lotteries organized by the Government of India or the Government of a state. Post Office Savings Bank. Post and telegraph, telephones, wireless, broadcasting and other forms of communications. Property of the Union. Public debt of the Union. Railways. Rates of stamp duty in respect of bills of exchange, checks, promissory notes, etc. Reserve Bank of India. Taxes on income other than agricultural income. Taxes on the capital value of the assets exclusive of agricultural land of individuals and companies. Taxes other than stamp duties on transaction in stock exchanges and future markets. Taxes on the sale or purchase of newspaper and on advertisement published therein. Terminal taxes on goods or passengers carried by railways, sea or air. So all these departments, revenue will go to the hands of the center. Next, the source of revenue for state government. First one, capitation tax. What is capitation tax? It is a tax levied upon any individual for the services rendered by the government. For example, driving license. If you are getting a driving license, you have to pay certain amount to the government. That tax is called as a capitation tax. Next, duties in respect of succession to agricultural land. Duties of excise on certain goods produced or manufactured in the state, such as alcoholic liquids, opium, etc. What do you mean by opium? It's a type of drug. Then estate duty in respect of agricultural land. Fees in respect of any of the matters in the state list, but not including fees taken in any court. Land revenue. Rates of stamp duty in respect of documents other than those specified in the union list. Taxes on agricultural income. Taxes on land and buildings. Taxes on mineral rights subject to limitations imposed by Parliament relating to mineral development. Taxes on the consumption or sale of electricity. Taxes on the entry of goods into a local area for consumption, use or sale therein. Taxes on the sale and purchase of goods other than newspapers. Taxes on the advertisements other than those published in newspapers. Taxes on goods and passengers carried by road or on inland waterways. Taxes on vehicles. Taxes on animals and boats. Taxes on professions, trades, callings and employments. Taxes on luxuries including taxes on entertainments, amusements, betting and gambling. And last, tolls. There are some taxes levied and collected by the center but assigned to the states. What are they? Duties in respect of succession to property other than agricultural land. Estate duty in respect of property other than agricultural land. Taxes on railway fares and freights. Taxes other than stamp duties on transactions in stock exchange and future markets. Taxes on the sale or purchase of newspaper and on advertisement published therein. Terminal taxes on goods or passengers carried by railways, sea or air. Taxes on the sale or purchase of goods other than newspapers where such sale or purchase takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. Duties levied by the union but collected and appropriated by the states. Stamp duties and duties of excise on medicinal, and toilet preparation shall be levied by the Government of India but shall be collected. In the case where such duties are leviable within any union territory by the Government of India, in other cases by the states within which such duties are respectively leviable. There are some taxes which are levied and collected by the union and distributed between union and states. That is collected by the central government and it is distributed or shared between center and the state. What are those taxes? Taxes on income other than agricultural income, union duties of excise on medicinal and toilet preparations as are mentioned in the union list and collected by the Government of India. So far we have seen all the central state financial relationship, certain departments and sources of income for union government, certain sources for state, and some collected and assigned to the state and some collected by the union and assigned to the state, some taxes levied and collected by the union and shared between the union and the state. Let us go to the next topic, very important topic, principles of federal finance. See, there are totally 9 principles. Principle of independence, principle of equity, principle of uniformity, principle of adequacy, principle of fiscal access, principle of integration and coordination, principle of efficiency, principle of administrative economy, principle of accountability. Let us see each and every principle in detail. Yes, principle of federal finance. See the column principles on one side and the description on the other side. The first principle is independence. The government should be autonomous and free. What's the meaning of autonomous? Having the freedom to govern itself. That is called as a autonomous. It means each government should have separate sources of revenue, authority to levy taxes, to borrow money and to meet the expenditure. The government should be free enough for what? To have separate sources of revenue, authority to levy taxes, to borrow money and to meet the expenditure. Second principle, equity. The resources, that is the revenue, should be distributed among the different states so that each state receives a fair share of revenue. Third, uniformity. Each state should contribute equal tax payments for federal finance, but this cannot be followed in practice because the taxable capacity of each unit is not of the same. It differs from one state to the other state. Adequacy of resources. It means that the central and state government should be adequate, that is enough, to carry out its functions effectively. Adequate enough. Adequacy must be decided with reference to both current as well as future needs. The resources should be elastic, that is, it should be more in order to meet the growing needs and unforeseen expenditure like war, flood, etc. Next, fiscal access. There should be possibility for the central and state government to develop new source of revenue within their prescribed fields to meet the growing financial needs. Both the central and state government should be free enough to develop the new source of revenue during the time of the financial crisis. Next, integration and coordination. It should be integrated. It should be well integrated. There should be perfect coordination among different layers of the financial system. This should be done. Why you are doing this? This should be done to promote the overall economic development of the country. The ultimate aim or goal of any country is the economic development of the country. Efficiency. The financial system should be well organized and efficiently administered. Efficiency is very important in all the fields. There should be no scope for evasion and fraud. Evasion, escaping, cheating, anything. Double taxation should be avoided. Next, administrative economy. It is a very important criteria. The cost of collection should be at the minimum level and the major portion of the revenue should be made available for the other expenditure of the government. Yes, more amount should not be spent for the sake of collecting the cost itself. Okay. Next, accountability. Each government should be accountable to its own legislature for its financial decision. Example, from center to the parliament and from state to the assembly. History of Finance Commission. Yes, listen. It was set up in 1951 by the President of India to define the fiscal relationship framework between the center and the state. This Finance Commission reduces the financial imbalance between center and the state. It is a temporary body. It is set up once in every 5 years. The 14th Finance Commission was set up in 2013. The 15th Finance Commission was set up in 2017. Its recommendations will be implemented starting 1st April 2020. See the history of Finance Commission they have given. Look at the tabular column. Finance Commission, year of establishment, chairman and the operational duration. See, the first Finance Commission started in 1951 and now we are in the 15th Commission 2017. The first chairman of this Finance Commission was K.C. Neoji. Now in 2017 the chairman is N.K. Singh. The duration period of this 15th Commission is from 2020 to 25. Functions of Finance Commission of India. What is the function of this commission? The distribution between the union and the states of the net proceeds of the taxes which may be divided between them. The sources of revenue which the government is getting in the form of collecting taxes will be distributed between the center and the state. This function will be done by the Finance Commission. Next, to determine the quantum of grants and aid to be given by the center to state, it will decide the total amount of grants and aid that should be given by the center to the different states. Any other matter referred to the Commission by the President of India in the interest of sound finance. Several issues like debt relief, financing of calamity, relief of states, additional excise duty have been referred to the Commission invoking this clause. Next heading, local finance. It refers to the finance of local bodies in India. The four main local bodies which are functioning today in our country are 4 in number: village panchayats, district board or Zilla Parishad, municipalities and municipal corporations. Let us see the first one, village panchayat. See the establishment column, where it is established, how it is established. The jurisdiction of panchayat is usually confined to one village. So we can see this village panchayat only in villages. In some cases, 2 or more small villages are grouped under one panchayat. Panchayat Raj is the avowed policy of most states in India. What do you mean by avowed policy? To say firmly and often publicly what your opinion is, what you think is true, etc. This is called as a avowed policy. So this village panchayat is established in villages. Next, what are all its functions? The functions range over a wide area including civil, economic and so on. Roads, primary schools, village dispensaries are managed by panchayat. Supply of water both for drinking and irrigation, farming, marketing, storage comes under this category. And how this village is getting the income? What are its sources? Its sources of revenue are some taxes. The taxes are general property tax, tax on land, profession tax, tax on animals and vehicles. These are the main taxes. Other taxes include service tax, theatre tax, pilgrim tax, tax on marriage, tax on birth and death, and labor tax. You should keep in mind that all these taxes are levied by the panchayat only. Anyhow, they will be getting a sanction from the state government. Given are some of the images of the village panchayats in Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. Next local body is District Board of Zilla Parishad. It was established at district level. The territorial jurisdiction of a district board is generally a revenue district here. So we can see this in each and every district of India. What are its functions? It is a coordinating body which exercises general supervision over the working of the panchayat samitis and advises them on implementation of development scheme. Sources. Let us see what are the sources. Grants in aid, land cesses, toll, fees, etc. Income from property and loans, income from fairs and exhibitions, and property tax. All these taxes are authorized by the respective state governments. Yes, example for district board. Next local body is the municipalities. It was established in urban areas, that is in towns, for looking after all the local affairs. What are its functions? It looks after sanitation, public health, local roads, lighting, water supply, cleaning of streets, maintaining parks and gardens, hospitals, dispensaries, drainage, education, fair and exhibition, etc. What are its sources of revenue? What are the tax? It can collect it. Taxes on property, taxes on goods, particularly octroi and terminal tax, personal taxes, taxes on profession, trades and employment, taxes on vehicles and animals, theatre or show tax, and grants in aid from state government. What do you mean by octroi tax? Tax collected by the state government on those goods that have been bought into the state for the purpose of personal use and sale. See the picture. Some of the images of the municipalities of Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry is given. See the one on the left, the top. It is the municipality of Pondicherry. I hope you all have seen this. Yes, you can see this in the beach road. The name of this building is Mary. Next local body is municipal corporation. The municipal corporation have wide powers, more power, and enjoy greater freedom as compared to municipalities. Its functions are water supply, drainage, lighting, roads, slum clearance, housing and town planning, etc. The sources of revenue are tax on property, tax on vehicles and animals, tax on trades, calling and employment, theatre and show tax, taxes on goods brought into the cities for sale, taxes on advertisements, octroi and terminal tax, etc. See the images of various corporations of Tamil Nadu: Chennai, Trichy, Madurai and Coimbatore. Is the last scope of the public finance, fiscal policy. Let us see what is fiscal policy. In common parlance, what's the meaning of parlance? Used by many people, that is, which was in practice, we can tell fiscal policy means the budgetary manipulations affecting the macroeconomic variables such as output, employment, saving, investment, etc. This was a general meaning, which means the budgetary manipulations affecting the macroeconomic variables. So two great economists, they have given a definition for this fiscal policy, Arthur Smithies and Buehler. Let us see the first one. He has very clearly given the definition. The term fiscal policy refers to a policy under which the government uses its expenditure and revenue programs to produce desirable effects and avoid undesirable effects on the national income, production and employment. Next, the statement given by Buehler: by fiscal policy is meant the use of public finance or expenditure, taxes, borrowing and financial administration to further our national economic objectives. Fiscal instruments. Fiscal policy is implemented through fiscal instruments, also called fiscal tools or fiscal levers. Government expenditure, taxation and borrowing are the fiscal tools. See the first instrument, taxation. You transfer income from the people to government. It may be either direct or indirect. Yes, we have already seen that the tax may be either direct or indirect. Increase in tax reduces our disposable income. To control inflation, taxation should be raised. Next instrument is a public expenditure. Public expenditure raises wages and salaries of the employees and thereby the aggregate demand for goods and services. Hence, the public expenditure is raised to fight recession and reduced to control inflation. Next instrument is public debt. When the government borrows by floating a loan, there is transfer of fund from the public to the government, that is from the people to the government. At the time of interest payment and repayment of public debt, funds are transferred from government to the public. So these are the three fiscal instruments. Look at the chart. Two types of fiscal policies are given: expansionary fiscal policy versus contractionary fiscal policies. See, in the first one, expansionary fiscal policy, the government spending, that is expenditure, is more, whereas the tax, that is revenue, is less. So in the expansionary fiscal policy, the expenditure will be more than the revenue. See the contractionary fiscal policy. Here the government spending, that is expenditure, is less, whereas the taxes, that is return, is more. Here expenditure is less but the revenue is more. Objectives of fiscal policy. See what are the objectives of fiscal policy. Full employment, price stability, economic growth, equitable distribution, external stability, capital formation, and regional balance. Let us see one by one. See the objectives. Full employment, price stability, economic growth, equitable distribution, exchange stability, capital formation, and regional balance. These are the objectives of fiscal policy. See the first one, full employment. It is a common objective in both developed and developing countries. It helps to create employment opportunities. Rural employment program like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme MGNREGS is aimed at employment generation. So the first and foremost objective of this fiscal policy is full employment. Second one, price stability, to bring about the stability in the prices. It is caused by mismatch between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Inflation is due to excess demand for goods. I hope you know what I mean by inflation. Yes, price hike. Price hike is called as inflation. How it is caused? It is caused due to the excess demand for goods. When the demand for a good is more, then there will be a inflation. Taxation of income is the best measure if excess demand is due to private spending. To fight depression, the government needs to increase its spending and reduce taxation. Next, economic growth. It is used to increase the productive capacity of the economy. That is, growth of the economy. The productive capacity of the economy should be increased. This is the next important objective of the fiscal policy. Tax holidays and tax rebates for new industries stimulates investment. Public sector investments are to be increased to fill the gap left by private investment. What do you mean by tax holidays? That is reduction in tax. It's called as a tax holidays. And tax rebate. What is tax rebate? It is a refund on taxes paid to an individual or household when the actual tax liability is less than the total amount of taxes paid during the tax year. Next objective is equitable distribution. Progressive rates in taxation help to reduce the gap between rich and poor. I hope you know what is progressive tax. I have explained in the previous topics. That is, rich will be charged more and the poor will be less. Public expenditure through welfare schemes such as free education, noon meal for school children, and subsidies promote the living standard of the people. If the government takes steps in all these activities, there will be a economic growth. Next, exchange stability. Tax concession and subsidy to export oriented units help to boost export. Customs duty on import help to cut import bill. The reduction in import duty on import enables reduction in cost and make the exports competitive. Capital formation, it is essential for economic development, tax relief, increased disposable income, savings, and thereby capital formation. Government expenditure on infrastructure encourages private investment. And last one, regional balance. Fiscal incentives for industries help to narrow down regional imbalances. This public expenditure helps to start industrial estates in backward region and stimulate it, and thereby brings regional balance in the society. Yes, conclusion. We have come to the end of the lesson. Such a big lessons, we have completed it. Now recollect what are all the objectives we have seen in this lesson. Yes, revenue and expenditure of the center, state and local government, the various scope of public finance, that is public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, fiscal administration, fiscal policy, what are all its objectives, what are all its function, how it is helping for the development of the economy, different types of budget, balanced, unbalanced, surplus, deficit and other various types, and local bodies like village panchayat, district board, municipalities, municipality corporation, its establishment, function and sources of income, then different types of taxes, direct and indirect, and GST, what are its types, the need, evasion, sources, etc. we have seen. There is a close association between government spending, private investment, interest rate, consumption and income growth. We can conclude by saying like this. I hope you have understood all the concept very detailed, very clearly also. Thank you.